Well, I'll go ahead and make the statement that nobody wants to hear now, though it will speed up Pam and myself. Food is here. So I suspect that Colonel Bolin has disappeared and he's digging into the best of it. So I'll go ahead and move along. Don't know. So yeah. The seventh inning stretch was not part of the show, but the reality is, like I said, George Barna did a study years ago, and your attention span is limited to about 12 minutes. So think about that next time you're in church and the sermon's going on about 45 minutes, you forget everything they said after the first 10 or 12 minutes. And the experience I had as a youth pastor and as a music minister is now be a good time for somebody to really shake things up. So I'm going to give introduction to what we do IT-wise, and then talk about some other things, but let's go ahead and move on into my presentation. Colonel Bolin may come back, don't know. Once again, Jay Sellers. I think I've met everybody because I'm the first person you see when you get onto the email and you get into the system and such, and when you have problems, you're more likely to talk to me than anybody else. So my official title is Public Education and Systems Analysis Manager. So similar to my experience working at the City of Brunswick, that means, like most of us around here, I wear many hats. I from 2001 to 2006, was the utility analyst for the City of Brunswick, which meant that I worked with Stantec. I assisted them with gathering, as the billing manager, the data out of the billing system to allow them to help determine what our rates would be, and also participated in the budget calculation for the water department. But I was also the IT tech for the water department. So the majority demand within the City of Brunswick was within the water department, and of course we took that on, and so now internally you'll see there's been a flow on how things have gone IT-wise within the Joint Water and Sewer Commission. So I report directly to Mr. Junkin within the Office of the Director. Need an IT tech to come tell me when my mouse isn't working. Oh, here we go. So I have a small section of staff. It's really just myself and Mario Wilson, whom you've seen come in and out, and he's out doing other things right now, so I said he doesn't have to come in here and hear me talk. He hears me talk plenty. And we maintain the IT equipment. We serve as the internal PR agents and support our staff in training for integration with other agencies. And, oh, that's where you went. And we also work in response with emergency management to man-made and natural disasters. So I'll try to touch on a little bit of all of those things, but first, let me show you. So Mario Wilson here. Mario's the brains of the operation. I'm keeping him busy out there right now and setting up computers for customer service, for instance. So anybody that has a need like that, Mario and I are hopefully going to be able to fill it. And then I am the comic relief. For the 5 years that I was at the city, working in billing and as utility analyst and as the IT tech, I worked on developing a relationship with all staff so that they knew they could count on me, they knew they could call on me. So we do have a fairly demanding job as far as just the two of us are concerned. And 137 PCs, which really that number has for 147 staff, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But we have some PCs that aren't dedicated to staff members. We have some that are part of processes that just sit there as terminals waiting for somebody to deal with them. But we also have, hiding in the dark, in a cold, dark room, 15 servers that are linking all of the desktops and the laptops together. The desktops, since 2013, have almost doubled. We have seen a greater usage by staff, and we've also seen a greater number of those smart devices, especially when it comes to the Verizon phones. We had at one point used exclusively Southern Link two-way radios, and those served a purpose, but we moved over to the Verizon phones so that we could accommodate some of the demands that are present with GIS and with SCADA. At any point in time, that supervisory control and data acquisition system, which I'm sure Kirk is going to talk to you a lot more about, allows the technicians that respond to trouble calls regarding water pressure drops or lift station and pumping station failures. They can respond to those things remotely. They can be sitting in the bed, get an alarm on their smartphone, and in some cases respond to that alarm, or reach over and grab a laptop that allows them to securely connect back into the server and respond to those concerns without jumping in the truck. That's a beautiful thing, because who wants to get up at 2 in the morning, drive out to somewhere on the north end of the island in the cold, flip a switch, and then drive all the way back home to your house in Camden? It's not that convenient. So we do have, like I say, a fair demand, and we're available 24/7. It's very uncommon for me to get calls on the weekend because if something's going to happen, it usually happens on Monday, typical. But the reality is that the most common concern I get on the weekend is somebody will text me and say, I've locked myself out, I can't get into the system. That's fine. It doesn't take a matter of minutes to get into those. With the server situation, we have some data silos, and John touched on that as far as we have the billing software. Then we have this SCADA database, and then we have project databases. And then we have plan review team has a database that they access. We have a big responsibility in trying to figure out how to coordinate all that data together. Oh, and then some folks in the field, Angela Walker, when it comes to grease trap inspections, she has a database that she has to enter the same information that's already in billing into this database so that she can accurately track grease trap inspections. And then we have the backflow preventer process as far as being able to test those facilities that have testable backflow preventers. There's another database for that. So there's a lot of redundancy, and that really is going to help us identify an eventual need to fill a position where we have somebody that's higher level data administration, database administration. So either somebody that's contracted or hired. As far as our salaries, they're attributable to the office of the director, but IT expenses are considered really a portion of every piece of the pie. Hardware and software are budgeted within each division. We will move to a point where we have identified charges from contractors that are put into each pie, or each slice, but for the most part, and what you can't really see here represented by the pie chart is that historically finance has borne the largest cost when it comes to IT services. So going into the next budget year, there may be some shifting of that so that it's more pro rata. So speaking of that history that I talked about, I was at the city from 2001 to 2006. I spent a 7-year hiatus until 2013, had a business where I was a marine electronics technician, so I would go onto somebody's yacht and install radar, radios and such. So when I jumped ship from the city, that left a gap that unfortunately got immediately filled by John Donaghy. The worst thing you can do if you know anything about computers is to tell somebody that, because then you'll be given the administrator password and suddenly you're the man in charge. So our step one, really the phase in when John came on board and when we went live in 2008, John was the IT tech, and then he had 2 people over the course of time that have served in that role. Then we have had a local contract with a company that came in and did some things. That was okay, but in 2013, when I came back on board, and we didn't have an IT tech at the time, I took some relief off of John, and then we started working on a contract with INS to take care of managing server and network. Whereas this company, INS, now's a good time to say, we've done business with them for years, even back to the city days, because the city and the county uses this one company located in Savannah, headquartered up there, to do the Mitel phone systems. So we have you might have seen it on the slide previously, we have a fairly intelligent phone system. It's not just plug and play, it's a networking type of phone system so that we can check our voicemails from home. We have a tech, actually a team of techs at INS, but we have one guy, Fred, in particular, that is a champ. He does something that he's certified to do that those of us that deal with these phones wouldn't be able to do without him. It's fairly high level. So it's good that we have this contract with INS, and also if you've seen your email blow up over the past few days, we have had a catastrophe in the server room regarding a data server that none of us would have been able to solve that riddle had INS not been able to remote in, and they had one guy that was en route to Seaboard that they were able to reroute to us. So it was perfect timing. Nobody likes to see that type of failure, but they were in the area and they could network in and solve some of those problems. So as far as the future is concerned, we're really in that step 2, moving towards the step 3. So phase 3 of this is now I'm primarily responsible for IT. That gives John even further relief, though until Enterprise is live and we have somebody that is taking on his database administrator responsibilities, we're still relying upon John for that, and also Harris as far as their experts that can solve problems, some of which we don't even know we have until a lot of things are unique to our utility and they help us solve those problems. So we're looking to the future. Mario Wilson, who's only been here since Tuesday of last week, but has been thrown into the deep end of the pool as far as IT is concerned. His first full-time position as an IT tech, he's staying up, working with Mike Girock, our primary networking tech, and it's really been an interesting time for him to come on board. We'd like to continue doing business with INS because we know that they can handle some things that would be cost effective for us to have a contractor to do, whereas if we had to pay somebody, like Glynn County has a very well-tiered staff, and they have people that are paid to do the work that INS is paid to do, but I believe that we get more bang for our buck by having that contract with INS continue. So we're likely to do that. But the database administrator would be very helpful because that would be somebody that's focused on being able to integrate all of the disparate data silos. That you have people that are having to redundant enter data from one system to the other so that we can do business, and that makes things difficult. INS, however, doesn't have a cost-effective way to provide the lower level, the hardware level tech support. So when it comes to computer setup, printer setup, the mapping of hard drives, things like that are still done in-house. And it is an interesting relationship we have with them because they are perhaps, at worst case, an hour and a half away, but most days they can respond in such a way that we're satisfied with the service that we're getting with them. Well, let's shift gears from the IT side and focus more on the PR side. For the City of Brunswick, I was also involved in website design and then participated in the first draft of the JWSC website when we were tooling with that in 2006. And then when I came back on board in 2013, we had a design that we wanted to upgrade. The previous website worked well as a static website, but there wasn't much dynamic content. And content's king. When you go to any website, Fox News, CNN, Glynn County, you're not as concerned with finding forms. Your first focus is what is going on. What are we going to be looking at? Are there projects that are going to affect me? So in 2013, 2014, we started rolling out into this content management system that is the present website. There's still plenty of room to grow. And it's not the best. It's not the flashiest. The cool thing for us is, whereas Glynn County and a lot of local municipalities use Civic Plus, very common, very popular government database, it's not cheap. In this case, we pay $0 other than the time it takes me to maintain it, and we don't have any monthly charges, aside from, I think we pay something like $9 a month for hosting the website. We could move forward to having, if there was a greater demand for data and we had the website slow, which we don't have this problem now, but if we ran into problems, it's fairly quick and easy for us to move to more robust hosting. We could change this theme on a whim. We just haven't done that for lack of time, but let's say if you want to, like Amazon, change the theme seasonally so that it looks different with whatever the changing tide is. And at this point, it's interesting, like I say, to say, as Mr. Junkin introduced me earlier regarding the public information officer position, I had already been working on that, so it was a very smooth transition. So I continue to put more and more information out, and people are responding to that well, especially on social media. So if we have, like we did yesterday, a post go out regarding the 2032 project, that pumping station, the work that's being done along Frederica Road, right on the top right of the website, I have progress on Frederica Road tagged, and then when I post an update to that, it feeds over to Facebook so people can start talking about it there, get some chatter out there. And then yesterday, I made a trip over to the Frederica Road area and put out half a dozen brochure holders like you see, take one when a house is for sale. So that was kind of thinking outside the box, and I'm not 100% sure that it's going to be as effective as I'd like it to be, because I want to be able to see the folks that run, walk, and carry their dog along that route to walk up and take those papers out. I'm going to go by there tomorrow. I'm giving it 2 days, let's say, by lunchtime tomorrow, and I want to see how many are gone, because I had 20 sheets in there. So let's see if there's any progress. But in conjunction with that, as John mentioned, the College of Coastal Georgia has become a great resource for us because we're building a relationship with the different divisions over there, and whether it be somebody that is pursuing a degree in finance or somebody, in my case, that has an intern available to serve in a public affairs capacity. Some of you have met Joey Nesbitt, our senior Coastal Georgia public affairs intern, who is with us every Wednesday through March. Joey is going to be presenting to you the first commission meeting in March, showing you his process, his progress, and the things that he's accomplished. Every week I'm intentionally giving him something new. It's not busy work. He's helping to write the SOP, since this is a new position for the organization, so we know, at least as far as what we know, are we doing those things well? So we need to start developing metrics to know, what are we just spinning our wheels, or are we actually accomplishing something, getting out there and putting the information out in front of the public. I believe, see in the chatter, some of you are part of those groups on Facebook, there are people that are communicating with me directly, and I think that we're going to start seeing our customer service satisfaction level increase. But how do we know? It's fairly hard to gauge that unless you have the metrics. So this is my favorite pie chart. So of all possible knowledge, we all know what we know, and we know what we don't know. But the biggest piece of that, Mr. Pac-Man there, is that we don't know what we don't know. So Mr. Junkin has sought out opportunities for us to engage with a consultant that might be social media savvy, or somebody that's PR savvy, that would come in and help us see our gaps, spot those things that we could be stronger at. And we want to connect with them, especially regarding some of the infrastructure, the construction needs that we have, the funding for those. How can we present to the community those needs in such a way that we don't scare them? And speaking of getting scared, the minimum training required for our organization in order to more or less stay in compliance with what FEMA has asked for years, when they come in and say, okay, we're ready to give you some reimbursement for your expenses, but we want to see that you have some skin in the game. We've only been required to have 2 classes. Intro to Incident Command, and that teaches us how we communicate to other organizations in common language, and the processes that we would go through to document the work that we do during an incident response. And then Intro to National Incident Management System, which just in a nutshell says, hey, if you respond to an incident and you're in recovery coming back into Glynn County, Joint Water and Sewer Commission doesn't have to clear the streets. You can call the 911 center, or whatever incident command post is set up, and you can engage another agency such as Public Works, or in the case of Hurricane Matthew, the Army Corps of Engineers. These folks just show up out of the woodwork. So up until Matthew and to a lesser extent Hermine, most of this training was academic. We knew that the time may come when we would use it, but we didn't know how important it would be. So years ago, Systems Pumping and Maintenance really steered the ship on getting that training completed, and they did such a good job that all of our field personnel were more or less pre-qualified to not flip out when they got into one of those response scenarios and they didn't know what to do, because it is unique. There were a lot of situations that we encountered over the week leading up to and then the week following Hurricane Matthew that without this training I think we would have been a little nervous about. So it made us more comfortable. So it's not academic anymore. It's not something where we're having somebody take these classes and they feel like they're just going to claw their eyes out, because they take 3 hours apiece and you have to pass a quiz at the end. So it's very practical now. It's information that we know that we can use and we can hit the ground running. But because there's more than 200 other classes available, that may be something that we can incorporate into a project that's not necessarily on hold, but we're just getting started with having an internal learning management system. So Mr. Junkin had connected us with a company that has a ready-made package that perhaps we could roll out, or we might do something in-house and we can consider it notches. We can start saying, okay, we know that FEMA has free classes, no cost to us, on certain types of situations like effective communication and technical writing. Can we pass those out to our supervisors and say, okay, that's a requirement for you? Then we can have different tiers so that everybody has different responsibilities. But that's something that we're keeping in mind as far as the training is concerned, but there's plenty of other opportunities for those training, that learning management system. But in response, we discovered that we had some needs. We need to have better communication between our staff and the Emergency Operations Center. Verizon was awesome. And in fact, when I go to the planning meetings with other agencies in town, everybody is in agreement that, thank God, Verizon didn't go down, because we're all considering them a vital vein, or a vital tool for our communication interagency. If Verizon service had gone down, and to a lesser degree AT&T, Sprint, the other cellular networks, only those that are coordinating day-to-day first responders, police, fire, public works, would have had the means to communicate with the Emergency Operations Center. So we had purchased one radio in year before last that would allow Mr. Junkin as our incident commander on a small scale incident to communicate with 911 center, and then he would be able to communicate if he were at, say, Academy Creek, if it were a larger incident. That's not adequate enough. That doesn't help us communicate if Verizon goes down. We would still be using tin cans and string. So we want to look at rolling out a better communication system that perhaps maybe a secondary to Verizon, or maybe a primary if we have crews that are able to communicate the same way police and fire does. We also have a need to strengthen and prepare an incident command post away from this building, because this is in the flood zone. 6 feet up right here would be underwater if there was a storm surge coming off of the river. So Mr. Junkin, I can't recall if you mentioned that earlier, but it's definitely something Kirk's going to talk about as far as hardening at the Academy Creek second floor of what's referred to as the big house. We have some ideas of how we could use that as a agency incident command post, because this would be underwater and we don't want to have to swim. That's going to be something that's going to be of interest over the next year or two. We also want to, from an IT standpoint, move our servers so that if this building does get inundated with floodwaters, we would have our data servers and all of our communications equipment on the second floor of Academy Creek, less vulnerable. So having said all that, do I have any questions? I think I went a little longer than I intended to. And stand by if you have any questions. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.